With National Signing Day upon us, we're going to take a peek at the status for both USC and UCLA football. Tanner Scott will get a shot at reclaiming the Dodger closer role, and a forward who had a lengthy NBA career but didn't quite realize his potential with the Showtime Lakers has died. Good morning. I'm James. And this is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the Faithful Angelenos Morning Report. It is December 3rd, 2025. We are back on the road in a pretty noisy airport. There's going to be background noise, and I apologize for that. The music kind of makes me wish for the sweet release of hearing loss, but on the plus side, we added a ton of new subscribers to the Angeleno Familia yesterday. Thank you for getting in on the ground floor. We're going to do our best to keep you informed, and man, do we got a lot to talk about today. So if you like being in the know about LA sports, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop an update. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. By all means, comment. We have a quick look at the scoreboard. 24th ranked USC basketball, 82, Oregon 77. The Trojans improved to 8-0, but the Ducks squandered a double-digit lead to make that happen. Chad Baker-Mazara led USC with 25 points. Washington defeated the Kings 3-1. Adrian Kempe scored the only Kings goal. Meanwhile, tonight, the Clippers are at Atlanta at 4:30. You know, the Clippers, they only went 2-13 in November. And UCLA basketball is at Washington at 8. The LA Times is reporting Donovan Dent is expected to play. Tyler Bilodeau is day-to-day. So with that out of the way, let's get to the news. I do realize there's a bowl game on the horizon for USC, but I've been reading up on Trojans football for 2026. This is what I do in my downtime. Today is when most of their recruiting class, tabbed as number 1 in the country, will sign and make it official. They'll be going steady with promise rings and everything. And that's going to be impressive because it would be the first time the Trojans landed the nation's top recruiting class since 2007, back when SoCal just basked in the glow of all things Pete Carroll. USC could add as many as 33 prospects, including 18 from ESPN's Ballyhooed Top 300. The names on the marquee will be offensive lineman Kenny Pepe and cornerback Elbert Hill. Now, if you're a Trojans fan, be prepared to just watch a lot of opposing fans just drain keg after keg of haterade, because this class is coming with a $9 million price tag. And you consider there's a soft salary cap for much of college athletics. So that led a GM from an SEC school to say, quote, they're betting the rules are not going to be enforced, which is really smart, unquote. Who knew those toothless hillbillies down south could be so passive-aggressive, right? This is hilarious coming from the SEC. They don't think football exists west of Austin, Texas, and they're going to judge Cali. Sorry. Guess you mouth-breathing inbreds will just have to hike your moonshine production. But you can't expect all the newbies to contribute. Certainly not immediately. And this led me down a rabbit hole. What the Trojans are losing. Obviously, wide receiver could be a thing if both Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon leave for the NFL. But further down the rabbit hole, the position group that really got my attention is linebacker. Because not only is Eric Gentry on the way out, but you could argue that the reason the Trojans' defense this year was a little sketch, the linebacking isn't anywhere near as good as it was in 2024. So then here comes a question for you if you're a USC fan. Is that due to USC's talent at linebacker, or is it the coaching? Because USC should always have great linebacking. This is the school that made the uniform number 55 iconic. Willie McGinnis, Junior Seau, Chris Claiborne. Then last year, you might recall, you had Matt Entz coaching linebackers. Now he's a head coach at Fresno State. He's got the Bulldogs Bowl eligible. Entz was replaced by Rob Ryan. And yeah, I'm aware of his family lineage. I'm also aware that You know, people look at him, they've always looked at him as this lovable truck driving everyman. But I'm aware that he flamed out as defensive coordinator for the Raiders, Cleveland, Dallas, New Orleans. So is it the coaching? Now, I'm not claiming I have the answer to that question, but it does make you wonder how much of this really is on D'Anton Lynn as opposed to Rob Ryan. If you're a Trojans fan, let me know what you think. Meanwhile, over at Westwood, the churn of prospects for UCLA football intensified in the wake of hiring Bob Chesney as head coach. The LA Times counted the Bruins as losing 13 recruits, but then rallied to add 9. Even that tally needs to be updated. Late Tuesday, the defensive-minded coach reacquired defensive lineman David Schwartzel as part of the recruiting class of 2026. He had decommitted from the Bruins after Deshaun Foster got ran, and then pledged his undying loyalty for all things Stanford. That is until Chesney agreed to go to UCLA. Look, I realize these are high school kids, so I don't want to be too judgmental, but goodness gracious, they could be more fickle than a chick on Tinder claiming she just wants a good man, I swear. So, where does the recruiting class for UCLA get ranked? It's anybody's guess. I've seen it hit as high as the 20s and as low as the 60s. The program also lost 3 defensive backs to the transfer portal. Safety Cole Martin started 12 games for UCLA this year, recorded 65 tackles and intercepted a pass. He's out. But should we really be surprised? He's the son of the Bruins secondary coach, who's probably updating his resume as we speak. Scooter Jackson and Andre Jordan are also gonzo, which saddens me because life is better when you have people named Scooter in it. So a lot of Bruins news to talk about. Dodger general manager Brandon Gomes said we can expect a Tanner Scott redemption tour at the start of 2026. The guy blew a major league leading 10 save opportunities. The guy who was a human incendiary device. It was as if Osama bin Laden learned how to throw a cut fastball. So bad the Dodgers didn't even include him in the postseason roster because they knew their repeat shot would spontaneously combust if Tanner Scott was on the mound. But he's going to get another shot at being the Dodger closer. Gomes said, quote, "There is reliever volatility. Unfortunately, we've seen this happen in the past with other great relievers, so we fully believe Tanner's going to come back and have a great year for us next year and be right there in the mix to pitch at the back end of the games," unquote. Golly, doesn't that give you a warm fuzzy just in time for the holidays? But if you take a moment, you could actually deduce Gomes' rationale. There are a number of stories claiming, for example, that free agent closer Edwin Diaz could get $100 million. So the idea of throwing even more money at another closer after dropping $72 million on Scott, $13 million more on Kirby Yates, at some point sticker shock does kick in. Free agent and beloved little engine that could, Kike Hernandez, went on a podcast I don't listen to and said his elbow injury, which required surgery, is more severe than previously reported. Quote, "They went in thinking it was going to be an extensor release, and when they went in, they realized I had torn that thing completely off the bone," unquote. Basically, if he returns to LA at all, don't expect him for almost the entire first half of the season. Forward Elden Campbell, who joined the Lakers toward the tail end of the Showtime era, has died at the age of 57. The cause is not known. He was drafted in 1990 out of Clemson, and he put together a decent 15-year NBA career, more than half of it spent in LA. He won a title with Detroit, though, against the Kobe Shaq Lakers, of all things. The LA Times lauded the guy for, quote, "seemingly effortless style of play," unquote, which is one way of saying he looked like he was falling asleep on the court. Now, don't get me wrong, his teammates loved him. But at 6'11", they also thought he had the potential for greatness that was never realized. With the current Lakers, somebody had to lose minutes now that LeBron James is back. The fall guy is Jared Vanderbilt. JJ Redick said, quote, "It doesn't mean that he's not going to be back in the rotation at some point. When you're winning games, it's hard to redo the rotation mid-winning streak. I guess he was caught up as sort of an innocent bystander in some ways with that, but I certainly have empathy for him," unquote. The Kings became a little less diverse yesterday. They traded forward Akil Thomas to the St. Loser Blues for Nikita Alexandrov. Now, you might find this hard to believe. I'm not exactly an expert on race relations. Back in 2021, though, the Kings minor league affiliate out in the IE, they had a line of all-black forwards of Thomas, Quentin Byfield, and Devontae Smith-Pelly. Now, I don't know if I would use the word historic to describe it. Lord knows the scribes love using that word for anything, with regards to DEI. But it was just simply bleeping cool. It was cool. The problem is most of the forwards slots on the Kings roster are on lockdown. Thomas was not going to crack it, particularly because he's injury prone. Now, to be fair, I'm not sure they win or lose the trade. Alexandrov looks like a career minor leaguer too. Also with the Kings, they turned around and extended center Samuel Helenius for 2 years, less than $1 million per year. He's basically a guy who can join the third or fourth line in a pinch. The LA Times asked why Tutu Atwell is getting $10 million this year with only 4 receptions. I think I got this one, guys. It's because they effed up. They effed up, okay? They effed up. We don't have to overthink this one. They simply effed up. I mean, Atwell's been in the NFL for 5 seasons. He's never cracked the starting lineup. They just love his speed. Meanwhile, he's been passed up by such luminaries in receiving as Van Jefferson, Allen Robinson, Ben Skowronek, Demarcus Robinson, and now Xavier Smith. They effed up. It's not the end of the world. ESPN reporter Sarah Bishop, without sources, said the Rams, quote, "won't hesitate to pursue a quarterback they like," unquote, in the first round of next year's draft. And I want to congratulate ESPN. It only took them 7 months for them to catch up on something I said on the first night of last year's draft. The moment the Rams made a trade with Atlanta to acquire another first-round pick for the 2026 draft, I have been shouting from every rooftop I could climb that you package those 2 first-round picks, you land in the top 5, and there's Matthew Stafford's replacement right there. Angel City FC has extended midfielder Neely Martin through 2027. She played both midfield and defender in 7 matches last year. They also lost midfielder Madison Hammond and defender Mayabi Moria. Both of them signed with Utah. And I don't care. I don't. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me about what you're expecting for both USC and UCLA on National Signing Day. For that matter, do you believe Tanner Scott deserves a shot to be the Dodger closer again? And if you enjoyed this update, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow in a place that's a lot more quiet. Faithful Angelenos is a Keon Cortel Queso production. Take care.